Hello, I'm Mary V. Today, let's talk about aspects of performance. When I used to be in orchestras and we were going on stage, I was always amazed at seeing some of my colleagues saunter on, hands in pockets, talking to the person next to them and completely ignoring the audience, and sitting down, continuing their conversation, and it's so casual. And it never felt like a good thing to do. And I don't know if stagecraft is taught and even mentioned in college nowadays, but it was always a strange thing to see that because the audience is really everything. They've paid money, they've taken their time to come and listen to you play, even if you're a tiny little bit of the orchestra. And people just became so blasé, I suppose, that they just walked on and very casual. Um, and in smaller groups that I was in, the same, where it's actually more noticeable, um, there was a lot of shuffling on and, messing about the stand and all this stuff. And I find it very peculiar because from the very beginning, you're signaling to the audience whether you're happy, confident, you're giving them signals that they are happy and confident. Um, Likewise, if you've had a rather disastrous time during the concert and something happened and you don't feel you played well, and a member of the audience comes up to you and says, "Oh, that was wonderful, I loved it," then it's really incumbent upon you to say, "Oh, thank you very much, I'm so glad you loved it," right? You can't say, "Oh, it was actually terrible. I was so out of tune and oh, this was a disaster." You don't do that, okay? I mean, it's kind of pretty obvious that you've got to perform in these aspects and not just, hold your violin up and that's when you're performing, oh, like this, okay? All these other aspects, they're honoring the audience. You've got to honor the audience and give them signals. For example, a lot of violinists feel that they're like ducks and it's gliding above the water and furiously paddling underneath. That can happen a lot to us, but you don't let the audience see that. You're serene or you're confident or you're performing. So there's a little bit of magic about that I think I would love to see a little bit more of that. Um, welcome to my performance. The next thing is nerves. What may happen to you during nerves? One great piece of advice that Itzhak Perlman gave is learn what happens to you when you get nervous and whether it's a deal breaker or whether it's something that you can embrace and get used to. Now, that's really good advice because nerves can strike anyone, even the most confident people. It's something physiological and it's something you can't really control. But if you're lucky, the effects of nerves won't be too bad. They won't actually stop you from being able to do it. For example, I get enormous rushes of adrenaline and it ends up making my hands actually literally shake. But when I'm actually playing, it's almost unnoticeable. It's slightly fluttery and everything seems to speed up, but it doesn't stop me from being able to do the basic task. And once I know that, I'm much more confident and I'm not afraid of it happening. Because with nerves, it's the fear of something catastrophic happening that stops you or causes some sort of meltdown in the performance. And A friend of mine used to get panic attacks when he played. A wonderful player, absolutely wonderful, beautiful musician, but these things would happen to him, and it wasn't because there were doubts about his technique. He could actually play, but something happened to him during performances, and he ended up taking beta blockers, and his lifestyle sort of fell apart, and he gave up the profession. It was just too much. He wanted to give up the beta blockers, so he felt he had no choice and went off. Now, that's something that you don't want to happen. So, that cautionary tale, that's the worst, isn't it? But if you can embrace the effects that nerves do have on you, and you realize that it's not catastrophic, it's just an unwelcome thing, and you can have more and more exposure, so you become a little more used to it. It may happen, it may not happen, but you learn to be confident, supremely confident, that it's not going to ruin you, and it's not going to be all that noticeable, and it's something that you can still play. I mean, some people might go very foggy with their mind, and they can't concentrate. They forget their music, various things. You know, these are nightmares, aren't they? But the fear of it is worse than the actual thing, usually. And I don't want to have this feeling of flutteriness, hours before I perform, or suddenly hitting me just when I put my bow on the string. It's not pleasant, but it's something that, yet another thing that the determined violinist can overcome. So stay positive and embrace it. So, performance. Another thing about performance is animating your thoughts, animating what you're doing, to put it across, and realizing that playing it nicely and playing sometimes doesn't come across. Audiences normally respond to animation, but I am not talking about over the top electric violin type, all this stuff that you see on popular television programs. That's showmanship. That's fine. I'm not, saying there's no part for that. But animating the actual music in classical music is something that needs to be learned through performance, and it's very helpful to perform to yourself looking straight in the mirror and imagining that you're the audience and what can you see. And it doesn't need to be animated. For example, I saw a violinist start the Vocalese by Rachmaninoff in such a quiet way. So it can be done by drawing in towards yourself in a very, very beautiful, tender way, as well as projecting out the way. So there's so many ways to talk and think about stage presence and performance, and how to put your music across to people. So there are some of my ideas about performance, observations and experience. And let's talk about it a bit more next time. Bye for now.